mentally. If I went back to a hoopty for my bands, would you poof and disappear? Like some of my friends, if I was hit and I was hurt, would you be by my side? If it was time to put in work, would you be down to ride? I'd get out.
Ek is al halfpad daar, ek is al hierso. Okay, well, welcome to our YouTube channel.
Welcome.
I'm W and he's C. As one of my videos I stated that the YZ250X is potentially a better bike, or as good and potentially even better. And I'm going to motivate my statements today. What do you think? So I think we're going to, let's have a look here. I wrote them down, otherwise I'll forget.
He forgets everything, in any case.
What are we busy doing now? Oh yeah. Okay.
He else like a cut.
Yeah. So there's a lot of guys in the same shoes I was. I came off a KDX like this, which is a badass bike. My KDX wasn't as reliable, kept giving me problems, so I thought let me just buy a new bike. But then you in this odd space where you can't decide, I'm going to go orange, am I going to go white, or am I going to go blue? That's pretty much the options I was happy to go with, and I ended up going blue, and I haven't been sorry for a single moment. You have to ask yourself a couple of qualifying questions, all right? If you are one of those people deciding what you want to buy, and you're undecided, you can't decide, you're not sure if the YZ is a good buy or the KTM and all that. Well, let's start off and say unequivocally they're all good bikes.
Yeah, definitely.
They're all good bikes, nothing wrong with them. The YZ's a good bike, the KTM's a good bike, Husky's a good bike.
Yeah. Or even the Sherkos and those bikes these days are.
All of them. Sherko's amazing, especially what Wade Young does with them. But we are going to highlight the strengths and weaknesses for certain people, because each person has a bike that suits him the best. So you need to ask yourself a couple of qualifying questions. Do you ride competitively? Are you sponsored? Do you have a lot of spare cash? Or are you so good on a bike that you wring every last horse and suspension stroke out of your bike and have the basic, intermediate and advanced skills down?
Definitely not.
Not us.
No, definitely not.
Does half a second matter when you ride? Does the majority of your races begin with cold starts? Do you get a new bike every year? If your answer was yes to most of the questions, then this is probably not the best option for you. I would go orange or white, because they have the e-starts and all those things, and they have the latest of the latest of the greatest. You know, that's where milliseconds make sense. You know, money is not an option. Are you a weekend warrior?
Yes.
Do you fund your own riding?
Yes.
That's not such a yes, but yes, would you? Are you an average to advanced rider? Nah. Do you ride remote places far from any help? Most of the time. Does your bike need to last you many, many years?
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. I don't plan on buying a new bike next year unless you buy this one.
Yeah, well, we'll see.
If your answer was yes to the second batch of questions, then this is actually, I would say, a better bike for you to ride. There's a couple of pros and cons that I'll run through now with this bike, but me motivating the fact that this to me has been a better bike so far than orange or white would have been is the fact that we've ridden a couple of fun Euros where there's a bunch of other bikes of all colors, assortments,
all shapes and sizes,
all flavors, and we have seen mainly the orange and white bikes around us, blowing steam, while our bikes are just soldiering on. You know, when we get stuck in a mud place or a hill or something, a lot of these bikes stand there waiting for it to cool off while we can just keep going.
Yeah, well, I think the KTMs and those bikes are actually made for people that ride faster. They don't get stuck that much.
Yeah.
So I think everything is so race spec that it runs a bit warmer, but if you keep going, it's not going to burn up or not going to boil or anything. But some of the medium kind of guys get stuck in a muddle for 20-30 minutes, and it does get warm and it does heat up. And the thing is, the KTMs and those bikes tend to overheat a bit quicker than these ones.
Absolutely.
That's my personal
it's a fact.
opinion of it.
That's what we've seen.
I've seen it, a couple of times.
Observed it a few times. and the oaks end up having to spend more money on fans, to cool off the bikes more and all that stuff. So that's one thing where this bike is king, and the KDX as well. But we're more talking about the 250X now, motivating why it's in my opinion, for me and the type of rider I am, absolutely unequivocally a better bike than the other two options would have been, or other string of options. They all would have been good bikes, obviously, but I like this one more for me, and this is why. So the one reason is the KTMs overheat all around us, because it's all a bunch of weekend warriors riding with us, and they all struggle to get our places. The only difference is they have to sit and wait for their bikes to cool off while we can soldier on. So the other things is I watched a guy drown his KTM the other day in a river, and we helped him get the thing. We had to pretty much strip the bike almost down to the frame to get the spark plug off, because the tank almost it's so close to the tank that we had to get the tank off to get the water out. And by the time we got all the water out, and we started wringing it out with the e-start, and lo and behold, the battery went flat. And that was the end of his ride, because he didn't have a kickstart to continue. They had to carry and push the thing out, and get it out with a truck, and no more riding for him. Whereas if you had to drown this bike, it's easy access to your spark plug. Get it out there, get the water out, and kick until it goes, and off you go.
Kick until you're blue.
No, we'll just go. So this thing, there's less things that can go wrong with it. It doesn't have a computer, it doesn't have the TPI, it's got carburetor, everything's still straightforward. So the less computers and wires, the better, in my opinion. For the remote places we go riding, like the last video in the Kamanasi Mountains, you don't want something electronic to go wrong up in the mountains.
It's going to be a mission.
No, definitely not. So this brings me to my pros and cons about this bike, and hopefully this will help you decide. I love the look of this bike. I like the stance. It's got a nice aggressive stance. However, in the same breath, it's not good for my short
posture.
Because I'm so short, so it's got a nice aggressive stance, but my feet doesn't touch. The dislike is while I'm riding, shifting down from second to first, I usually slip into neutral. It loves slipping into neutral. I don't know why it does that, but it does that often, and then it lets you down. And it gets frustrating when you're tired, especially then you end up falling over for no reason. Hole shots. This thing's gearing is amazing for hole shots. Insane. I've taken hole shots from European bikes a few times. And it surprised myself even. This thing goes flying off the mark. So that's a pretty fun thing. And I've already mentioned the bike's too tall for me. And unfortunately, I'm probably going to have to either spend more money on a lowering linkage or something. I have to figure something out, because I don't want to mess around with my sag by dropping the spring or anything like that. In the 70 hours that I've had this bike that I've ridden, I've done 70 hours on it, never overheated it once, and we've been in some sticky situations where other bikes around us did blowing steam. A negative, it stalls pretty quickly. When you're riding, you can't just off the idle let the clutch go a little bit, it will stall on you immediately. So when you're doing technical riding, you've got to be revving the whole time, because it's quite a revvy engine. It wants to be revved. You can't just slowly take off.
And it sounds good. It's a one-one.
But it does stall for no reason. And I installed a flywheel weight around about the 12-ounce mark, and it's helped a little, but it still does like to stall when you don't want it to stall. That brings me to the e-start. Something I dislike as well is the fact that it doesn't have an e-start, because when sometimes you're stuck in some really odd places, and
you can't kick you.
My leg's too short to put on this side, and then I have to almost so it is a downside, but not 40,000 rands worth of downside.
No, definitely not.
And then one of the pros that I do like about the bike is the fact that it doesn't have an e-start. I'll tell you why. The moment I think that once Yamaha starts putting e-starts in his bikes, they're going to start taking the kickstarters away, like KTM did, and we don't want that.
Yeah, they all do.
And I don't take my kickstart away. I want my kickstart. If I had the option, I would choose a kickstart and not an e-start, or both if it's an option. But If I had to choose between the e-start and kickstart all day long.
It's more reliable.
Absolutely. Especially if when you go in remote places, you need something that you can manually kick.
Yeah, well, it's the same. There's less stuff that can actually break. So.
Then it's a very playful bike. I like riding it. It's light. It's got a BMX like handling feel to it. I always feel like I have more fun than I would have on a different bike. The KDX in the beginning gave me more confidence. I felt like I could take on more things because it's such an easy bike to ride.
Yeah.
But once you get used to this, KDX actually feels dangerous to ride. But because I'm used to this bike now, and whenever I get onto your bike, it feels dangerous.
Well, it's the same. That's got a lot more power than this one.
Yeah.
So as soon as I get off this, I sit a bit different.
Yeah, you sit higher, and your legs are
aggressive,
higher as well.
and it does a bit more power. So it's a bit more sketchy than this one. But if you get used to it,
it's nice. So you get used to the power.
Yeah.
I have to say, it took a little while to get used to the ergonomics of this bike as well. I felt wrong sitting on it. Now it feels amazing. The handling and everything. It tracks pretty well as well. Because it's an MX bike, it tracks quite good with the suspension and everything. In South Africa, I don't know what that is in dollars or what the price difference is in America or Australia or wherever you're listening from. But here, it's a 40,000 Rand difference between the similar bike in a white or orange. So this bike was literally 40,000 Rand less. And that's a big savings. And everything on the bike is cheaper. Everything, all the parts, because the bike is essentially the chassis, the rolling chassis is 10, 13 years old. I think, no, from 2006. Yeah, they changed it from 2006. They got the alley suspension and everything's the same as that. And then the X is a little bit different from 2016. So, in fact, if you lose your swing arm for some reason, you can go scavenge off a donor bike somewhere that's up to 13, 14 years old. You know, you'll definitely find the parts. That's a big pro for me. That's a big positive for me. So in closing, I just want to say that for a weekend warrior, a guy that's not sponsored, that doesn't need an e-start for cold starts and races, because I had a guy contact me the one day and said, the reason why people like e-starts also is because most of the races start with e-start. I don't race. I'm not sponsored. I don't race. I don't do race for time or anything like that. We just go ride for fun. Try and get stuck somewhere and get out of it. Yeah, Banderas, yeah. So time doesn't matter. So let's try and give you a synopsis on what we're trying to say. In my opinion, KTM is a very good bike for a racer. If split seconds or seconds matter to you, but if you need a little bit more reliability, the engine is not as hot. It's not tuned as racy. It's not as, and that means it lasts longer because, where you take on this side, you have to give from that side. If you want it faster, you're gonna take away from your reliability. But if you go slower, you add more reliability. There's no way around that. And this bike's found a very good. The Japanese found a very good. It's a very good balance. So I haven't been sorry for one single second. It's going to take a little while to get used to the ergonomics of this bike. It's going to take a little while to get used to the power, especially if you come up with KDX.
Yeah, I think that's personally the biggest thing for me was the ergonomics.
Yeah, ergonomics.
It's definitely.
And the brakes are a lot.
Yeah, I took it a couple of days ago for a day, and it's definitely get used to it quite quickly. But even from the smaller ones like these ones, it's still with the power and stuff. It is a bit that you need to get used to. But eventually, I can see it working in your favor instead of against you. Definitely, it's actually a machine. It's a monster of a bike.
It's a lovely bike. It's a beautiful monster. Go ahead and get yourself a YZ. You'll never be sorry. You can. It's easily modifiable to your riding style. So I removed the washer from the governor spring, and it has a little less tension in it now, so there's a little bit less snap in the power band, but that also adds a little bit more power in the bottom end for me. Loving it. I can ride lower revs. I don't break traction as often, and I changed the gearing a little bit here and there, but a lot of people suggested that I change the head and the cylinder and all those things. I don't need to do that. It's perfect the way it is. They designed it beautifully. The pipe's perfect all the way through. Everything on it's perfect. I'm not going to spend unnecessary money on that. Definitely. And all the money that I've spent on this bike so far, adding little protective things on it and so on, I haven't come anywhere near the price of a bare new KTM or Husky.
That's true. Well, depends. If you have money.
If you have money, just remember.
Personally, I still think if I have money, still won't buy a KTM because I am gonna overheat it.
Yeah,
I'm 100% sure of that.
Because the last Fundero we rode, you had an injury, so you were taking footage. But you'll see there's a bunch of guys with 6 days and they're getting stuck and riding into trees and flipping over, looping and all that kind of stuff. Paying 40,000 Rand more for a bike doesn't make you 40,000 Rand better on a bike.
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
So in conclusion, this is more than enough bike for a weekend warrior. I think it's definitely more reliable and easier to handle if you're not that great of a mechanic. Everything is a lot easily accessible. And if you are thinking of buying a KTM because you'll make life easier for yourself, you're wrong. I think it's all the same at the end of the day, but I have seen guys struggle more with KTMs because of the fact that they overheat and the fact that they're 40,000 Rand more. Going in circles now. Cool.
That's it.
That's it.
The next bit is the two of us bickering like an old couple. It was a little bit of a hot mic situation where we didn't know the camera was rolling, and it was actually quite funny. I'm usually creeped out by loud drinking and eating noises, and he's generally a loud eating and drinker. Unfortunately, it's in Afrikaans, but maybe you'll enjoy it.
Okay. Ongelooflik. En jy dink jy sit aan, maar dis nie, klink.
Wel, as jy rustiger maak, my vrou klaar net so.
Dalk is dit 'n teken. Ek weet nie, ek wil nie snaaks wees nie, maar dis dalk 'n teken.
Ek haal swaar asem op.
As meer mense
Ek haal swaar asem op.
moan. Dalk is dit 'n teken.
My vrou mag nie maar nie so bly saam my. So, ek wil net soos jy.
Want jy moes nie van praat nie.
Net soos jy sê.
Ja.
Ek het foon nie.
I know you like that. Girl, it's easy to love me now.